He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute of the Phantasm. This is the podcast where we would never get distracted about thinking about anything else but Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which is great for the show, but terrible for our social lives, I guess.
Yeah, people don't want us to be just talking about this constantly, let's be honest. When you're at a party, people want to have fun.
Yeah, it's like, what's they talking about this year? Just Mask of the Phantasm. Never any other conversational. Well, to be fair, it's because you do so much research. That is kind of true in the end.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I am your other host, the host of the future, John Parker.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow.
That's exactly how I pictured, that. I was thinking of that in the back of my mind, this entire sequence.
But anyway, we're joined by a new guest today, but not a new guest for this week, but not a new guest to the show. We have franchiseographer and previous host of Back to the Future Minute. It's Scott Carelli.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
you're back.
Yes. Welcome, Scott, to the world of the future.
Yeah, you guys couldn't have picked a better minute for me.
Oh, it was purposely done, because one of the other shows is, of course, as well, what's the name? The theme park this? Is that it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Because it was like, well, there's a theme park in this, kinda. So there's only one man for the job, really. But
as soon as I was talking about getting guests and stuff, I think this was immediately sort of written in for you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But today, well, we're here to specifically talk about minute 24 of Mask of the Phantasm, which opens with a dashing couple in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. And it ends a minute later with Bruce thinking about the future. He ain't got no future, Bruce. You're an E1 nut boy.
We're going back in time. Yeah. This is the future. We're going back.
Yeah, this is. We're going back in time to talk about Bruce's past, where he was thinking about his future. You know all about the crazy time shenanigans. Scott, you do a Doctor Who show as well, for Christ's sake. But
it's true.
Yeah, we should ask though up front, because Mask of the Phantasm is sort of like hailed as like the best Batman movie, but then we always find out not a lot of people have seen it. But I imagine you probably have. But should ask, were you the one person who went to see this in the cinema when it came out or anything?
I don't even think I knew that it came out in theaters because it was out for such a short amount of time. And I if I remember correctly, I don't think the advertisements were very good at explaining that this was going to be in theaters. It just wasn't. Yeah. I don't think they were like all the TV ads during Saturday morning cartoons. Remember those? I don't know if you guys had those in England, but
we did.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I remember seeing advertisements for it, and then my mom brought home the VHS clamshell, and I just assumed I didn't learn that this was in theaters until way later, but I did watch the VHS obsessively. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Would you hail it as the best of the Batman films, or where do you land with it?
I think so, because it's it's about Batman. I think it's impeccably constructed, both from a story standpoint and a character standpoint, and it's gorgeous, and it's comfy because it's everybody's favorite Batman.
That's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, to jump into minute 24 though, we have the opening shot of the building that houses the world of the future, with this big plane outside. Longtime listeners to the show will note that nearly every season now, I keep bringing up all the connective tissue between Batman, Howard Hughes, and the Spruce Moose. Because they filmed Batman Forever in the Spruce Moose dome. the big place where they used to house the plane. And this plane looks a lot like the Spruce Moose to me, but
yeah,
it's just saying that everything's connected. Which is I didn't think would be able to tie it into the animated series, but there it is. So,
that's amazing! Holy crap! Yeah, that can't be a coincidence. Come on.
Oh no, I'm sure they're deliberately going for all that kind of everything about this scene though is like it's the retrofuturism that's presented.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it actually made me a little depressed watching the scene this week because like you just wouldn't get this anymore. This real hopeful view of like this is all what's coming down the pike. Everyone look at how great the future is going to be. Now everything is just like we've got crop failure looming over us and like 2030 like the world is dying. Like nothing.
Niall's over here just explaining the plot of Tomorrowland.
It's oh god, I agree with you though. Like it's quite. There's a lot of bad things about the past, obviously, but I like the way they used to be really hopeful for the future.
Yeah,
like they imagined the most amazing things the best possible scenarios that just never happened.
Yeah. Although that's the thing, that Scott, because like you're doing a podcast about theme parks and stuff. I've never really been. I went to like theme parks when I was a little kid. Haven't been to one in years. But like in modern day, like Disneyland and stuff, are there still things like I know Tomorrowland is it's an attraction, like it's a thing, and Epcot itself is an attraction now, even though it's not the Epcot that was planned. But like, do they still try to go like everything's going to turn out great, folks, when you get in there?
No. I mean, Tomorrowland has basically just turned into like a just a collection of like IP stuff. Like you have like Star Tours and you have Space Mountain, but I don't know. That's not really that doesn't feel the same because it doesn't feel like hopeful. It's just a roller coaster. And yeah, so no, not really. And Epcot used to be like the biggest version of that, but they've just started replacing all of those old rides with other stuff. And so now it's just it's not really about that anymore because I don't know. I mean, the thing about the retrofuturism and looking to the future and being like, hey, everything's going to be great. I mean, that was before we learned, that our leaders were dicks.
They're actively stopping the world from being this way.
Right. We were all very ignorant of that, and so yeah, we were very hopeful because we're like, I mean, obviously the people in charge are going to do the right thing and do what they're supposed to do. That's why they're in charge. And it's like, no, they're just idiots like anybody else. Only they're narcissistic idiots.
Yeah, which makes it much worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking. Like maybe like out of spite, like. Speaking of like leaders and stuff, like Bruce Wayne himself, memories of this world of tomorrow shut this place down. He was just like, Alfred, have the world of tomorrow killed. Like, but sir, do as I said. It's just like, no, I can't. I like this shining utopia. No, I'm not having that. No, it reminds me of Andrea too much.
That's all. That's what it is. No, we're moving away from this.
Although that's one of the things too, Scott. Because you're on franchisography you're going through the Star Trek movies at the minute. And that's because I was I haven't watched those movies in a while, but I used to be big Trekkie back in the day. And it just really is like, again, that coupled with this, it really is like, I remember like in The Next Generation where it just has like this really bright, optimistic view of the future where it's like, no, humanity's going to get itself sorted. It's going to be, everything's going to work out great. Like, and just be sitting there going, nah, I just can't see it happening. Like, it's really is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's a huge war that happens before that.
That's true.
So we've still got that to look forward to.
As we get on the phone to Putin and be like, can we hurry this up and just get this World War III over with so we can get to the good stuff on the other side, please?
We want to get to that good stage.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be dead by then, and then we'll all get on great.
As they head inside. Are you done with your spruce moose?
Oh yeah.
As they head inside, I know this is a real thing. But I've always found this kind of strange, and maybe it's because I'm also not a regular theme park attender because I'm scared of things like roller coasters. But these little cars to go around exhibits, I always find a bit odd because I want to walk around and experience things, take them in, think about them, stroll. But that's what those in power don't want you to do. They don't want you to think, get on the track. They're telling you where to go and what to do. I understand that it kind of makes it a whole, experience and stuff, but I want to have a nice wander. I want to look at things in my own time, take a little close up.
Yeah, this feels more like it's a ride. Like it's got that like it's a small world after all kind of thing. The giant robots waving at you and stuff like that.
Those robots.
I mean, I think the issue here is these two kids behind them are a really good example of why they're in a ride vehicle, because they don't want these two kids who are literally strangling each other to be walking around this exhibit, touching the robots, and not being able to control themselves.
Yeah,
that is very true because you can guarantee that would happen.
Yeah,
that's what I'm really surprised though. Like at the restraint, because they don't restrain themselves, of course, with all the friggin' Jack Napier stuff we got later in the movie, but like I was really like half expecting noticing these kids in the background more than to be like blatantly a young Dick Grayson or something.
Yeah,
like it just feels like it was like a big shock of black hair coming out or something. They've been like, oh well, there he is. But if it's just two generic kids, I guess statistically speaking, like it's quite likely that when they grow up, Bruce is probably going to knock the crap out of these kids at some point because they're probably going to grow up to be goons of some sort. But
I think he's beaten up pretty much the entirety of Gotham at this point.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, I remember I saw you when you were a kid, just cracking your teeth there with his fist. They're wearing crowns. I'm guessing they're here for like a birthday party or something. These kids, because they're wearing it looks like they're wearing little paper crowns or something. But.
Well, no, that was that's like a thing back then. It's like there were these hats that look like crowns that kids would wear. It's in like Jughead wears a crown.
I always thought that was just a Jughead thing. I didn't realize it was an actual hat. I
think it's just become a Jughead thing because it's like what everyone associates it with the most at this point. But yeah, I think back then there was like just hats that looked like crowns that kids would wear.
Okay, I'm into it.
We're bringing it back, everybody.
Well, you're the Hat Man now. You can bring it back.
Yeah, there's me showing up as wearing a crown one day. It's like, that's right. What are you going to do about it?
You should see me in a crown. The robots you mentioned as well, they kind of scare me a little, I'll be perfectly honest. They're kind of like C-3PO crossed with the Cylon. The gay robot from Star Wars crossed with the mighty one from Battlestar.
I was weirded out by like, what's the point of the robots? Are they trying to say in the future there will be giant robot overlords that just walk around the city or something?
Yeah, I guess.
Waving to people, I guess. Or is it
it's either that or they're suggesting that like everybody's gonna have like a robot helper and they're all gonna be happy to do it.
Yeah, they'll do like housework and stuff like that, so you can have more free time.
Yeah.
Hey, look at them, they're smiling, which is kind of creepy as well, to be honest.
Oh no, they are very unsettling. And then like we find out later in the movie, rightfully so, like one of them turns friggin' homicidal at one point. But
I'm also very I have issues with the fact that they're gendered.
Yes,
I don't love that either. I think that adds to the creepiness factor.
Yeah, because that's a conscious decision to go like, well, this one needs to look feminine.
Yeah,
why?
It's even like then the outfit to put the guy in. I guess maybe you could say Batman's getting inspiration from like he seems to be the guy robot seems to be wearing like underwear on the outside. So I was like, maybe Bruce is like, ooh, I like that look or something. But the whole ensemble's got a real kind of like Zardoz vibe to it. It's like, it's just the robots of the future have clothes. And for some reason, they're very strange clothes.
I do want to mention, did you guys look up, what this is sort of based on? This, where they are?
Well, partial inspiration, but like the Trilon and Perisphere, is that what you're referring to, or have you got something else?
Yeah, like the World's Fair. I presumably this is like a like one like section of the World's Fair. That they're in. There was like I think they were pulling inspiration mostly from the 1939 and the 1964 World's Fairs, both of which were in New York. But yeah, they were like notable, especially the 64 one, because that's where like Walt Disney designed like half the exhibits at the 1964 World's Fair, and definitely a lot of like Tomorrowland came from that. And most notably the 1964 World's Fair is where they built that big globe that takes place in like the third act of Men in Black.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 I can't hear
yeah,
worlds.
it was all retro future.
I can't hear World's Fair though and not think of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's just one of the greatest episodes ever.
Yeah, find out later that was the wig sphere is what they turned the world of tomorrow into.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh.
Then again, that would kind of suit me. I'd be happy with that.
It's weirdly appropriate though. You're saying though, Scott, about like it's the 1939 World's Fair, and this is like the origins of Batman. You know what else was created in 1939? Batman. Yeah, there you go. It's a bizarre coincidence, but like I'm sure they planned it that way. I'm sure they did. But
Although, back to the gendering of the robots, it's only just sort of dawned on me, which is shocking, really, that I didn't think about this. So, here's my question to you then: do you think in the story that's being told as part of this ride, are they saying that the world will contain robots, or are these supposed to be real people? And it's just showing you what real people do,
you will
and it's
take
easier
out
to
your
have robots.
soul and put it into the eternal body of a robot.
No, but it's because when you said about the gender of the robots, it kind of made me realize that they're really playing into gendered stereotypes of the time and like, oh, the good housewife and stuff, because she's there making dinner. The dad's just sitting down doing whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah.
Right.
With the dog. So it
Right.
just seems weird if they were meant to be robots. Why would you have a lazy robot that's like just a lazy man?
Maybe they're suggesting like an AI reckoning of some sort.
Quite possibly.
It's like, yeah, you will notice that there are no humans in the future.
Oh, we're all screwed, guys.
Yeah, it's quite a believable future then, this, I suppose.
That's when Andrea later's like, you think you'll see this in our lifetimes? Like, no, we'll all be dead. Like, the robots will kill us first.
I kind of wish we knew who made this. Like who the architect of this was, who the Walt Disney of these ideas were.
Well, the thing is, 'cause there was the episode, it's the second Mr. Freeze episode of the animated series. We talked a bit about it last year, obviously, because Mr. Freeze was in the movie. But they had that guy, Grant Walker, who wanted to, like, he was basically Walt Disney. Like, he was, like, sort of nefarious businessman who, like, wanted to live forever, and he wanted to, like, turn him, he wanted to be turned into Mr. Freeze, so, like, he would age much slower and stuff like that. But they had a whole thing in that episode about, like, he had a world of tomorrow, like this utopian city that he was building that only the rich and powerful could stay in, and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Well, maybe it's him.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
Yeah, I can imagine it probably is. This could be Walkerland, or he's one of the people funneling money into it or something. Or,
yeah, one of the sponsors. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that was the thing with the World's Fair, is like each pavilion was heavily sponsored by some corporate entity, like like a gas company or a car company or whatever.
Yeah. But I just think that still pondering your question though, John. Because I didn't thought of that. Like, I can understand them having a robot that like cooks, because that's like, okay, that makes sense. But then it's like, why would I want a robot watching my TV? Like, what the hell is
exactly?
Like, get out of my chair, man.
That's why I think they've got to be representing the people of the future.
But then, even then, this version of the future is just like, well, this kind of looks like today. Like, it's just guy watching TV, lady cooking dinner. Like,
what's he watching? What is on the TV? What is that?
It looks kind of creepy, like he's watching security camera footage of someone he's got locked in a cell.
Yeah.
He's like
a human being. He's locked a human.
This is the robot jigsaw.
Yeah.
He's watching like ghost videos on YouTube or something.
Oh yeah, well there you go. They've predicted YouTube. Batman predicted YouTube.
The thing is, in comparison to like this version of like, oh, your leisure time, well, you get to sit and watch TV while your wife cooks, is like just when did Wall-E come out? Like that's like what. This is 93. Wall-E's like 2006, I think, or thereabouts.
No, it's after that.
I thought it would have been 2000, maybe 2008. So that's in the mid 2000s anyway. So that's only like 10.
2008.
2008. So that's what, like 15 years later. And just the fact that like their vision of they having leisure time in the future is like, yeah, everyone's gonna get horribly like unfit, and it's not going to be good for anybody. And like you should be trying to steer away from that as much as possible. It's like the cynicism kicked in really quickly, I guess. After
And it's even if they're people, even if they're robots, whatever. Here, I'm not digging the sexism.
Oh, totally.
I know. I'm not saying it's a bad thing in the movie, because I know what the movie's doing. It's it's because it's playing back to the old visions of the future that you got in like the 50s and the 60s. So she's the good housewife. Yeah, I get it in the movie, but I just mean like if I was in this world, no,
not even so much to fit. I think right up into the 90s, you'd still have this as been like this is what domesticity looks like. Just white people guy sitting on his ass watching TV. Wife making stuff for him and the dog running around somewhere. But it's also kind of
it's not a good future for her.
Well, that's the thing too, because this is supposed to be like a vision of the future that Bruce and Andrea could have. It's like, oh yeah, he could be that guy sitting in the chair. She could be the one chopping the carrots. And it's just like, oh, I'm kind of glad then that didn't happen. Obviously they went on to have the tragedy of the movie is like what's their relationship falling apart and them going off to have these sort of blatantly as presented to be awful wives, even though he was Batman, but it's not, he ain't happy about it. But then also seeing it's like, oh, this would have been the future potentially. It was just them just doing normal stuff. It's like, yeah, it kind of seems a bit, I don't know, mundane as well. But
I feel like it's not supposed to be taken literally, but it's more like a representation of like, here's this I don't know, this ride or this experience or whatever about like this hopeful tomorrow, where everyone's like happy and waving and, wearing stuff from a bad Sean Connery movie. And yeah, like it's just like, like the future is so bright. And it's like what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. But, later when we see it, and it's all falling apart and broken and twisted and demented, it's like, it's literally just sort of like this thematic representation of their relationship. And right now, before the bad stuff happens, there's like a fork in the road, and this could be one future. Like their future could be bright and shiny and wonderful, like what this is, not literally, but and then after the decisions that they've made, you see what their future looks like, and it's decrepit and falling apart. I love that. There's like a line later where she like specifically says, do you think what does she say? Like, do you think a future like this is really possible?
Do you think we'll ever see this in our lifetime? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever think we'll see this in our lifetime? And I think she's literally just talking about like thematically is, she's talking about them, the two of them, and their relationship. And I just think I love this. Like, I just think that this is such a good way of doing that. I think that, largely speaking, like when you get into the minutia of this, you're just like, I mean, it's not that great, but I think do you think a future like this could be possible where I would be in the kitchen chopping a carrot while you lazily watch television, or our robot overlords did that while we were presumably chained up in the basement? Like it's silly when you get into the minutia of it, but I do like when you take a step back and you look at the macro. I love what it represents for the movie and for Bruce and Andrea's relationship.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's kind of like a double meaning to when she asks that as well, isn't it? So she's asking about this wonderful technology, but really it's what you're saying underneath of like, right, can we be a happy couple in this world?
I should though mention, did mention briefly earlier, there's elements of this are based on a thing from the World's Fair in 1939 called the Trilon and Perisphere, which and then within the Perisphere, which was just a big sphere, it housed something called Democracy, which was
that sounds like a movie title.
It does. I'm surprised no one's tried to option that. They option Tomorrowland, but I guess that's Disney. They can do what they want. But like, who owns the rights to Democracy? I don't know. But yeah, it's created by a guy called Henry Dreyfuss, and basically it was just like a walkway you stood on. You went into this big sphere, and it kind of encircled, and they just projected images of the future onto the...
Oh, that's much less exciting.
Yeah, well, I think it's 1939, I guess. But one of the big attractions, because that's the Perisphere. Next to it was the Trilon, which was the world's biggest elevator.
Oh.
Not elevator, escalator. It really sounds like, was it just the escalator to nowhere? Like it was. You see, like apparently even in the opening of Tomorrowland, it became such an iconic image of the Trilon and the Perisphere. They changed the Disney logo to include it, and it's actually like, so the Perisphere is a big dome, like a big sphere, and next to it is just this big like straight line, basically. And that's the Trilon. It seems like basically what the attraction was. Like it's an escalator, you go up really high, and then you just come down the other side.
There wasn't a lot to do back then.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't.
It really was like that where roller coasters came from. When someone was on that, it was like, that was terrible. Like, what? It just went up and then down again. Like, what the hell was the point?
What if that was good?
Yeah. It's like, what if add in a bump or something? It's like, wait a minute. Now I got something.
I don't know. I reckon if you'd never really even seen an escalator before, that would be like incredible, right? Like they're stairs and they move and you go really high. What the hell?
I guess it maybe do if you're up there, because it looks like it went up like building level. So you probably would be like looking over the side going like, oh Christ. And then when you're going down, it might have been like, oh Christ, all right, now we're doing it. But
I got that once.
We just did that. They just covered that on The Last of Us, where Ellie saw an escalator for the first time and was like blown away.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
How did we not think about that? Holy crap, yeah. There you go, see? Yeah, she's never seen one. She thinks it's the coolest thing ever.
I was actually thinking about Batman and The Last of Us, because of that episode where Joel's really gravely injured and she's like sort of over the top of him, really reminded me in The Dark Knight Returns. And Batman's severely injured and Carrie Kelly's just like it's just like it's the same exact shot. Like, what the hell?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so then they move in. We get a couple other random shots of like I guess, Andrea, you would see things like this in your lifetime. Dana Delaney would, at least anyway, because you got these kind of airplanes flying around everywhere. They're kind of like drones, I guess. I think they might be like, obviously they're weaponized later, but I think it might be like surveillance as well, because like, I think it's maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but like when Sal Valestra shows up to find the Joker, you see one of those planes going by first, and then the Joker appears as if he's like, I saw you through my plane camera, whatever.
I didn't think about that. Holy crap.
Yeah,
I just imagined they were like little clockwork things, I
guess that is probably what it is, but there's always something sinister lurking behind these grand utopias. So I imagine it's like, oh, there's all these random planes flying everywhere. It's like they're keeping an eye on you. That's what's happening.
Well, we know that robot was doing that on the couch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's probably what it was. Yeah, right enough. He's just watching plane footage.
There you go. We're uncovering it. We know what's going on.
Yeah, a literal airplane movie.
Although I didn't particularly like the two of them canoodling. Like, for a start, you're in public, a bit of decorum. I'm English. Decorum, please. And there's children behind you. Come on. Although those kids seem to vanish. Yeah. Well, yeah.
They both killed each other. It's fine.
I'm still surprised, though, you didn't get like more little... I feel like nowadays comic movies you would have to throw in loads of little cameos here, so you get like like a random janitor in a luchador mask who's like really rake thin, and you're like, well, if I had muscles, I'd show you kids or something.
God, that's what's wrong with the world, is putting in all that kind of stuff. Stop it.
Yeah. That's a good real thing of like. So keep seeing that, because we're on by the time this airs, it'll been and gone. But people saying about like, why would I go to see Shazam 2? When there's no future for that franchise. Like, it's just, they're rebooting anyway, so who cares? So it's like, you should be able to watch the thing without it having like things leading into another movie and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I've seen it, and it definitely has things that lead into another movie that are not going away. So,
wow.
Hey.
Oh, nice.
Well, that's good to hear, but I agree with you now. Like, just enjoy the movie. Yeah. If it leads into something, great.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I mean, I think we've all. I think the new generation of like people watch, like especially Gen Z, but also some younger millennials, I think all of their brains are broken by like, in my day, I watched a filler episode every week and I loved it. But now it's like, if it's not moving the story forward, they're like, oh, well, this doesn't matter. It's filler. And that's because like the internet has broken everybody's brains, and these people, on YouTube have like decided that like the only form of criticism that is entertaining is snark. And so I have to find something to be snarky about. So I'm going to call this thing filler, even though it's like one of the best episodes of television you've ever seen. It doesn't matter because it's filler. And it's broken everybody's brains, and no one knows how to watch anything anymore.
I've seen people legitimately complaining about Andor, saying there's not enough Easter eggs. You need more Easter eggs for like the greater Star Wars universe. It's like, the story is great. The story is what you're there for. It doesn't matter if it's going like, maybe Darth Vader will show up. It's like, no, it doesn't. You don't want to see him. You don't want to hear anything about that.
And the worst thing is, anytime somebody says something like that, you just have to imagine they're regurgitating something that they've seen in a YouTube video.
1,000%. Yeah. Like, I read some people saying those very things about that Last of Us episode we just talked about, the one in the mall. People were like, oh, this is boring. It's filler. It's got nothing to do with the plot. It's like, it's got everything to do with the goddamn characters.
Yeah. That's why even at the very end of Andor, they had their post-credit bit where he showed you that thing they were building the stuff for was part of the Death Star. And it's like, I know. Like, I worked that out. Like, when I don't care. I assume it's not going to be good, whatever it is. So
I can let them get away with that because it was like one time. It wasn't endlessly that.
But it did feel like, oh, you have to have a payoff. Or show, oh, it's the Death Star. I was like, I've seen the Death Star so many goddamn times. I don't care. You enraptured me for like 8 episodes with nothing to do with it. Why are you throwing this in now? But
no, these people. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Watch things, enjoy them on their own, and then if they connect to a larger universe later, wonderful. If not, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it could be just a movie. We used to just watch movies.
Yeah, so we did freaking 4 Batman. Well, that first Batman movie at least had no grand plans to be going on to anything else. It was like, this is just a Batman movie.
We used to be a proper country.
Oh, and some would argue that it kind of didn't set up anything because none of those movies are really that connected.
Yeah, well, that was one of the big criticisms of the original Batman movies. Is like, well, they keep killing off all the villains. Why do you want to bring them back? It's like, no, they had no idea that they might make another one after the 89. So they're like, well, of course the Joker dies. Who cares? You might never see these.
Why would we bring the villain back? We already did him.
Yeah.
He's done. He's dead.
Yeah, he's done.
He's out.
But speaking of Easter eggs, though, we do actually get kind of one, I guess. But it's not really an Easter egg. I guess it's just referencing something within the own unit. Well, I guess, would you consider this an Easter egg of the little?
No, this is like a what do you call this? Like a call forward, you know? Like
foreshadowing, I guess. Yeah,
foreshadowing. Yeah, this is more foreshadowing than anything else.
Wait,
but my question here though is, okay, so we're about to talk about the reveal of like a very similar car to the Batmobile. The way that this is set up is like there's a walkway that goes all the way around this sphere, and then there's a cross walkway in the middle where it meets in like this like grand sort of, not a staircase, but like a spiral I don't know, walkway that like goes up, but it's not like a staircase. Anyway, a ramp, like a spiral ramp, in like a glass globe. I don't know. It's weird. Everybody's ideas of the future back then was weird, but they are walking on the walkway away from the automobile of the future, and then he turns around and sees it and then goes back. But I'm like, but you were just there. Like, what? You're literally walking. There's nowhere else you could have come from. You had to have seen it earlier. Why are you just now noticing it?
I don't know, maybe Andrea dragged him away before he saw it because she saw like the hand axe of the future, or it's like disappearing gas, and she's, oh my god. No. But that is. You think they would just have him walking towards it in the first place, and then he's like, oh, what the hell's this thing that we're currently walking towards? And now I see it up close. I want to go in for a better look.
Yeah, I assume it's that they wanted it in the background so that the audience could notice it before Bruce does, but it doesn't make any sense.
But then the stuff beside it too is a bit like, you just have turbine power, like. Oh, okay. I guess maybe that's foreshadowing because there's a big wind turbine in the finale, I guess, as well. But that's the propeller of that giant plane, I suppose. But
is it saying that the car is turbine powered? Because that would be weird. Or is it just saying these are 3 unrelated pieces of technology?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't consider. I thought they were going like, randomly saying aerodynamic. I was like, what's that about? But if they're saying that the car is aerodynamic and it's turbine powered. That actually would make a lot more sense. Yeah.
But the turbine power, I mean, it's like a jet turbine, which as we know, the Batmobile is run with like a jet in the back. So I assume that is that engine.
Yeah, it would stand to reason.
All I could think when I saw the car, because I mean, yeah, as we've said, it basically is the Batmobile. He sees this car and he's taken by it. So when he becomes, Batman proper, he's got all of his stuff. Does he base the Batmobile on this because he thinks it's cool, or does he create the Batmobile because he's got access to the top new futuristic designs, cutting edge tech that this is representing?
There is an episode called The Mechanic, which actually heavily references Batman Returns. The Penguin we talked about in the Return season because it has the Penguin taking over the Batmobile and driving around like crazy and stuff. And in that you discover they have a little flashback that Bruce's car is made by a guy called Earl, voiced by Paul Winfred from Wrath of Khan, actually, and the Terminator and stuff. And he basically, there's a little flashback to like Batman pulling up to him in a rickety old, like an old timey car with just a big bat thing stuck on the front, like a ram, like a battering ram kind of thing.
It should have been the car that you got in the Batman.
Well, yeah, it has a much more, but it looks like it's like a 1950s whatnot kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it looks much more like the Batmobile of the 30s. And then it's the engine's properly spluttering and stuff, and Batman's like, I need a new car. And then it shows you Earl, like I designed the Batmobile then for him. But I guess we could say that Batman was maybe like, a couple of years ago I saw this really cool car. Did you go to the Gotham World's Fair when it happened? Like, yeah,
but you could tie the things together. They're not necessarily unconnected. Like Earl could be the guy who worked on this. He could be the guy who came up with the car of the future.
That might be right, yeah. He could have been like, I specifically sought out this guy because he designed that car that I really liked back in the day.
Right.
So.
And he'll know how to make it, yeah.
I just love the idea that Bruce thinks a car is cool. Like, I love, for all of the pomp and circumstance of him becoming Batman and, I'm brooding and I have to do this for my parents and blah, blah, blah. But he's just like, but that's a cool car and I want it. Like, I guess
we never really consider that as being like, Bruce is, I guess, a gearhead at heart because we always view the Batmobile as like, well, it's a tool he's using. He needs it for for fighting crime. But this is like, no, outside of it, he'd be like, oh, that's a cool car. Like,
you know what? He's right.
He is right. But also, like, Batman, the whole character he creates, like Bruce creates Batman as a separate entity. He's all about being cool.
It
right?
is, yeah.
Because it strikes fear. Like, people are scared of how goddamn awesome this god's in front of them is.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen like this season, we are kind of catching on. Like, yeah, Bruce is really like in love with himself a lot of the time. Like, again, earlier in the movie when it's like, oh, have you kept your vow? So far. And like that little maneuver he does, like, I'm so cool.
I just like those little glimpses of Bruce Wayne being like a regular guy that you get every once in a while. Like, and again, both examples that I can think of are I guess outside of like, you see, I mean, George Clooney refused to be anything but a normal guy. But I'm thinking of like Batman Begins, where again, he's like excited about driving that car. And he's like, does it come in black? That whole thing is very much like, this aspect of Bruce of like, yeah, at the end of the day, he still thinks things are cool. Like, you have the Earl's there, but he's got like a fuller head of hair, and then Bruce turns to him and goes like, does it come in black? I'm like, there's your Easter egg right there.
yeah.
Beating Nolan to it by like 12 years or whatever. Although I couldn't help but note that it is slightly different from the finished Batmobile because it has a cool fin in the back, much like my beloved fin from Batman Forever on the Batmobile there. So I do like the idea of maybe Joel Schumacher seeing this and being like, oh, that's a cool fin in that car. I got to work that into mine.
But this Bruce Wayne saw it and was like, yeah, I really love this car. Lose the fin.
That's the one thing that's why I didn't go for it originally. I was concerned about the fin, but it said aerodynamic right next to it. But I'm pretty sure if you lost the fin, it'll be even better.
I'm a bat, not a fish.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But
I love how distracted he is by it as well. He just completely abandons her. He's just like, whoop, I'm off to watch this guy.
He's that much of a gearhead. He's just like, ooh, maybe that's a foreshadowing of what their relationship would have been like. Like, oh, in the early days is all great, but then once they're settled, he sees something else that takes his fancy. He just like, wanders away. But
that is 100% because that's literally what he does. He literally wanders away, and he plays it off a bit, doesn't he? He's like, oh, I just had my mind on the future, and then she asks, anyone's in particular. And I'm just thinking, like, yo, she's fishing for commitment here, dude. Don't screw this up. This is your one chance.
I guess, like, yeah, that's the thing that Bruce is saying, like, I'm just thinking about the future. But it's kind of like, is he literally in that moment going like, oh, if I had that car, I could, like, chase down so many people. I could ram so many other cars off the road during high-speed chases.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't think he's thinking of their future.
Yeah. I wonder if that'd be thing. So, actually, I think I'm choosing to go with the canon you presented there, John, of Earl being the guy who designed this car. Because otherwise it would be that questionable, the thing they even had to bring up in The Dark Knight of, like, all right, so Bruce Wayne just takes a Batmobile from Wayne Enterprises. Or from this, they like, oh yeah, I based my car on that car, and then like, would no one be like, wait a minute, that's the car? particularly in the Nolanverse, that really is like, no, people would know that like that's the car we made for Wayne Enterprises. To the point where in the second movie they have to have a guy going, no, this is a thing that we have in the company and stuff.
Yeah, that always confused me because I think it's supposed to be. Well, not many people know about it. It's secret. Yeah, but some people do. Someone would speak up.
Definitely,
right?
definitely. Unless they completely. That's why I kind of like the idea that he's building a bit by himself, because then it's like, well, I took elements, but you wouldn't recognize them when I put them all together. Whereas the Tumbler is just like, I just painted it black. It's this big intricate thing that hundreds of people probably worked on, and it took until the second movie for someone to be like, wait a minute, like we have the blueprints of that right down the stairs. What the hell?
Yeah.
Although
I like him talking about the fact that he's like thinking about the future, and like earlier when they're driving by the waving robots, you can look at his face and he's just like in another world, just staring straight ahead like a psycho. And yeah, when he says like, oh, I'm just thinking about the future, I really like the fact that like, because tragedy hasn't stricken Andrea, she is thinking about their future, but he is thinking about his inevitable future. And I think that he's looking at this world and seeing the possibilities of like, well, if I become Batman, if I fight crime, this is what Gotham could be. But I have to do that. I have to become this thing that can save Gotham. And if I do that, then this is the future that could be possible for everyone. And I think that's how he's thinking about it, and she's more just like taking it at face value and thinking about their personal future. But
it's like solidifying his goals, isn't it?
That'll be something if he like, if this is what made him stop being Batman. He's like, I want that world of the future. It looks great. They don't need me. Like, everything's gonna be fine.
Oh no, he knows that these things don't just happen. You've got to fight for them.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm the person to do it, which just shows he's big-headed again, really.
I wonder, though, you're talking about corporate sponsors and stuff, Scott. I wonder if Wayne Enterprises has anything in the Gotham World's Fair. Like, is he like, oh, I'll take Andrea, but I'm going down to check out like what the competition has, or like what my guys have cooked up. It's just weird to see him be there as a complete like, pedestrian, like as a normal citizen, but like, this is a crazy thing to set up. It's like, well, although at this point with Bruce, he seems so his whole thing is the plan. I don't know if he has any like fingers in any pies at Wayne Enterprises at the minute. He might just be like, no, that's just my dad's company. I don't have a clue what they're doing over there.
The thing that I'm always confused about the Wayne Enterprises thing is that like in some stories, Thomas Wayne is a doctor.
Yeah.
And in other stories, he's the person who founded, Wayne Tech. And then in some stories, he's both, sort of like he's done both things. Or I guess in the Nolan movies, right? He starts like Wayne Enterprises, and it's like a charitable organization or something, right?
Yeah.
And then it evolves into like more of a capitalist endeavor after his death. I don't know. So
he's actively a doctor in it as well. It's kind of like he's saying, "Oh, I work at the hospital." And you're like, no wonder Bruce Wayne misses it. He seems like the greatest guy in the world. Like, not only did he start this massive thing, he's also a fully functioning doctor in his day to day. Like, it's crazy. But,
yeah. Did we ever get a hard I guess look at Thomas Wayne in the animated series? Like, do we know, like, did he start the company, or was he a doctor, or what the situation was?
I think there is an episode where he does feature, because of that episode where I think it's the Mad Hatter one, where Bruce just wakes up one morning and his parents are still alive, and he's like, oh, this is like everything I ever wanted and stuff. And then it's the one where you discover, like, the one thing I really took away from the episode is like, oh yeah, you can't read in dreams because he notices when he tries to read something, he can't make out the words and stuff. Yeah. But I'll have to rewatch that actually to see, like, do they specifically mention what Thomas Wayne's whole deal is in that?
I just watched that because it's Kevin Conroy's favorite episode of the show, and so I watched it on the day that he died. And I don't. All I remember Thomas Wayne talking about in that episode is golfing. Because he's like fully retired in that movie.
I like it when you don't ever really know what he was doing.
Yeah,
I kind of find that more interesting. Just like, he ran a company.
yeah, because he fully just did he or no? See, like in the Batman, it's confusing again because again he was like a doctor who like worked on what's his name, right? Like, and that's how they got like involved, right? With the I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In the movie, the Batman.
Yeah, in the movie, the Batman. Yeah, he works on Falcone, right?
Yeah. And there's more of a connection that we're discovering at the minute through the prequel comic, the Riddler prequel comic. Because Niall, I did my notes for the newest issue that we're going to record soon, issue 3, and you get quite a bit of that. It talks about how. Like the way he was funding the renewal program and all this kind of stuff. So they're already connected before that, aren't they?
Yeah. That was one of the big things I was like the most kind of intrigued by going into the Batman. Been like, it seems like they're setting up that Thomas Wayne might have been like a bad guy. And then so that'll be a real twist on, like, I suppose they did it in Joker, but like that's like an Elseworlds thing. I don't really count that, but but yeah, that's the idea. Like, Bruce Wayne has to grapple with the idea that his father was actually a terrible person or something,
right? And
then they didn't do it. Like they're just no, his dad seemed like he was a good guy and stuff. We're like, no. I mean, the character is so done over and over. Like, and I'm loving the movie you made, but. It'd be a little bit more interesting if he just had to go like, well, I'm avenging my parents, but my parents weren't good, so now I have to like work in something else to my mission as well, kind of thing. But,
yeah, well, I like the idea that it's sort of like a Two-Face Harvey Dent at the end of Dark Knight kind of situation where to Gotham City they represented something, even though in reality it was way more complicated than that, and he was like doing some bad stuff, but it's more like he's avenging what they represented to Gotham because the loss of them resulted in the Gotham City we all know and love. The crime-ridden Gotham City we all know and love.
Beautiful.
So I don't know. I think there's a few ways that you could have played it and kept him a little more complicated. But no, you always gotta make them angelic. I'm like, I don't know. They're not Ma and Pa Kent. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, he is a businessman at the end of the day. They're never good people. Come on.
right. And he's filthy rich. And it's like, I'm sorry, but there is no one who is that filthy rich who is a good person, because they wouldn't be rich anymore. They would have given away all of their money.
Exactly. We're on to you, Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, you're dead, so there's no point in it.
As the Nolan Thomas Wayne is like, I'm literally down working at a hospital every day saving lives, and it's still not good enough for you people. Don't I deserve my millions upon millions?
But now I didn't get this vibe from the finished movie, right? But in the script, it says while they're doing this whole minute basically, it says looking as if he'd rather be any place else right now. This is definitely too cute for him. Andrea looks at Bruce and makes a face, showing that she doesn't like the ride either. They hold their ears and grin.
That's a completely different vibe to what's presented. Like, it seems to be like this is almost like it's almost too idealized what they've got going in the movie. It's like, wasn't it a great day we had in the world of the future and stuff? But
I think I think they are trying to do that though, because again, if you go back to them driving through the city on the ride, they look miserable in the car. Like, pause on any frame and look at them, and they're just like, this is ridiculous. Like, they look ridiculous. Like, they look like they hate it. But then the canoodling, I think we're taking it as canoodling because the animators don't really know how to like animate that much nuance. But I guess you could be like, oh, maybe they're canoodling because they're both making fun of it.
That's true.
But Yeah, it's so that is that the subtlety of that I don't think plays in the animation.
No.
Yeah, because I got the vibe. Yeah, I mean, you are right when you point that out. Because I always thought though they were kind of having a nice time. But the script seems very much to be like they're mocking it.
Yeah.
They think this is all stupid. It's silly. It's twee. So maybe they should lean into that more, make more fun of it, and be like, this
maybe
piece of crap.
Well, maybe you could be like, oh, in reality, that's what they were doing. But now, because this is Bruce's memory, he's like, no, it was a perfect day. There was no problem whatsoever. And it's just like, what actually happened was Andrea was going like, this is so friggin' stupid. Like, why did you bring me here?
Of course, the woman is in the kitchen. Of course. Do you see this, Bruce?
That would be cool. That would be more interesting to me.
If she was playing her other DC animated universe character, I think I don't think Lois Lane would have had any of this.
Yeah.
No,
That's a weird thing you can imagine. Yeah, Superman, but like, oh wow, and Lois next to him, like, oh my god, what the hell is that?
Yeah, look, Lois, robot.
The only other note that I do have is specific to like what's seen on screen is that I don't know if this is a deliberate like nod they're doing, but the idea of Bruce seeing a car, like a prototype future car and been like, oh, I'll base my Batmobile on that kind of like the 66 Batmobile in the TV show. That's basically what happened. They back in like 1955. One of the creators saw the Lincoln Futura. Like it was just like a prototype car of the future, like that was just doing the rounds at World's Fairs kind of thing, where they're just like, look at the car of the future.
I'd love that. I don't even like cars, but anything future-y like that.
But it's the 66 Batmobile, just white. It's just in white, and it just feels like the fact that then someone, when they were making the show, they're like, "What could we? Oh, I remember this car I saw at the World of Tomorrow," and we'll just swipe that, and it just feels like it's probably a coincidence, but it is like a little cute thing to be like, well, is this Bruce also?
I don't think this is a coincidence at all. I think Paul Dini and Bruce Timm and all those guys, were kids when that show was on the air and probably knew that, and this is I bet you this is a direct reference to that.
Well, let's say that it is anyway, just to give them the credit for it.
I like to think it is, even if it's not.
But,
I did note down the song at the end of the minute here. I noted down all of the lyrics because I quite like the lyrics that the doll singers are singing. Apparently, that's the name of them, the doll singers. I thought the lyrics though sounded a bit. It's one of those. It sounds like nice and hopeful and things until you realise that a lot of like fascist songs sounded like this. Because it says, forward to the future. Our dreams are shining bright. Glory and wonder surround us. A new tomorrow is in sight. With heart and hope to light the way, we'll welcome in a brand new day. Forward to the future. The future starts today.
Nick really can get the image of blonde hair, blue-eyed youths in shorts, like singing.
It'll be videos of them hiking in the mountains of Germany or something.
Although weirdly, I also feel like just that dawn of a new day business just makes me think of "Can You Feel a Brand New Day" from The Wiz, which of course was written by Joel Schumacher. So hey, what are the odds? But
I always forget he did The Wiz. I can't believe it. Every time someone mentions it, I'm like, oh my god, yes.
I think he's probably dealing with that his entire life. Like every time he would mention it, he's like, "Yeah, I wrote The Wiz." And like, what? You wrote that? Yeah. I was like,
a man of many talents.
Well, this is him, and then Sidney Lumet directing. It's like, what the hell was going on in that movie? Like, these two, what were you doing? But yeah, that's all the notes I have directly related to the minute. Does anyone else have anything else specific to minute 24 they want to bring up? Or
no, that's everything for me. Noted out.
Just one thing, Scott, that we always do. We're doing this season because Batman the animated series was so sort of integral to the childhoods of people of our generation. We are asking like what your other favorite animated shows were back in the day. If there's any like that were more important to you than BTAS or
oh man, I mean, I really did love the Superman animated series as well. obviously I was more of a Fox Kid Spider-Man than an X-Men kid. I found X-Men kind of boring as a kid. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of politics in X-Men. But I would say if there is an animated series that is more important to me than Batman the Animated Series, because Batman the Animated Series I think is like where I learned I guess like how to like watch things as an adult, because it's just so, it doesn't talk down to you and whatever. And it really helped me sort of like, I think just like started forming all of those muscles in my brain in terms of like how to like match theme to plot and story and character and all of that, because they just did it every single week. But from just a DNA level, I think Muppet Babies was like that was probably the most important animated series in my life. I don't think I would like the things that I like had it not been for Muppet Babies introducing me to all of them. Like Star Wars, Star Trek, Indiana Jones, Superman, like everything that I love, I think came from watching Muppet Babies and having those things introduced to me from them. Like, oh, that's that thing from Muppet Babies. Like I remember literally thinking that when I would later like see those things in other context. So yeah.
I think if you presented a list of like the cartoons and then like which one do you think it's going to be, and Muppet Babies was on there, I still wouldn't have thought you were going to say Muppet Babies at any point.
Yeah.
But no.
Now, on that note then, we will head off into the dark, dark night. Scott, would you like to tell people where you can be found online or promote anything you've got coming out soon?
Yeah, I'm avoiding social media. So like, you can follow me on Twitter, but I don't post anything. I retweet things occasionally, but I don't really I don't post on Twitter much anymore, because I think it's all going to fall apart soon. But yeah, definitely check out Franchisography. You guys have both been on. Niall's been on a couple of times. And it's a show where we, myself and my co-host Nick Jimenez, we talk about franchises. As Niall said, we're doing Star Trek as of this recording. As of this airing, I don't know what we'll be in the middle of. But it hasn't been announced yet, whatever it is, as of this recording anyway. But it's a lot of fun. We've done so we've done Star Trek, we've done the Rocky films, we've done Evil Dead, Jurassic Park, we've done Pirates of the Caribbean,
Men in Black as well.
Men in Black, Scream, the X-Men franchise. That was a big long one. Yeah. And even things like Spy Kids. So, there's all kinds of things, and we go into basically the development of the films, the story of like who made them, why certain decisions were made, that sort of thing, and just it's basically all the stuff that I'm like the most interested in, and we made a whole show about it. It's kind of my perfect podcast. I love doing that show, and people seem to like it. So please check it out.
It's great stuff. People even this season have heard me in several episodes saying like, I was listening to a thing about Star Trek the other day. It's that show. That's the show I've been listening to. Like that's why I keep bringing up Star Trek so much this season.
It's a great idea because you still get to be looking into minutiae and delving in deep, but without the insanity of a minute by minute.
Yeah.
Right.
And as usual, find us on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat-Minute. Again, we don't really post much on Twitter, do we? Just share the episodes, really, because Twitter is a hellscape. We're on Instagram at the Bat-Minute. And why don't you go to the Sleepy Charlie Media Patreon, where you can get bonus episodes like the aforementioned reviews of the Riddler comic, the prequel to the Batman. That's always a fun chat. And we will be back next week with more episodes and a new guest. See you then, Batmites.
Next time, meet the parent. A, but not the dynamic duo depart the world of tomorrow, and it seems Bruce has sourced a salve for his sorrow. But while the bewitched Beau begins to question his sanity, could a quick car call set a collision course with Daddy? We're dealing with a dial of destiny come Monday, Bat Mites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Must have dope, stiff it,